Aloha and Merry Christmas, everyone. It's CreativeNameToStandOut again with another battle report, and this time I'm bringing you a game between my Pirate Legion with some Khorne allies against an opponent's Beastmen army. We'll be playing a battle plan from the newly released battle tome, The Ever-Chosen, and that battle plan is called the Sorceress Duel. We will be modifying this battle plan because the battle plan does call for lots of reinforcements to be placed throughout the game, and we only have the models that we have on hand, so we won't be able to interact in that way. We will only be playing the win condition, and so let's look at that. The win condition is called Duel for the Portal, where each player gets 5 dice that they will secretly split into 2 groups. The first group will represent the duel, the wizards going at it against each other, while the second group is for control of the gate itself. In the duel, we will take our dice, roll them against each other, pick our highest dice, then compare them, and the loser will take wounds equal to the difference in those rolls. We will then roll to see who can control the gate. We will take our second group of dice, roll them against each other. We will add them together this time, and then compare them to see who wins in that roll-off. If the Chaos side wins this roll-off twice, they take control of the gate. If the Chaos side gains the control of the gate and they kill the opposing wizard, they will get a major victory. If they're only able to control the gate, they will get a minor victory, and if they fail to do either, or both actually, the Beastmen will win a major victory. So obviously the Beastmen will be at a severe disadvantage in this game, but all they really need to do early on is to kill my wizard as quickly as possible. If they're able to do that, then my dice go from 5 in the allocation process to 2, and at that point it's probably going to be impossible for me to win. So that's going to be really the goal for the Beastmen, is to kill my wizard, while mine is to try to keep mine alive and win these scenario rolls. My opponent starts off deployment by setting up these 11 gore, and in response I set up my 3 flamers to counter them because I feel like these guys can whittle the gore out pretty fast. He, in response, sets up this Tzeentch chariot to support the gore, and at this point I realize I can't match him across the board. He's going to always be able to counteract what I do because he has more units, and more units that can just independently operate from each other. So in response, I set up these Chaos Warriors in a defensive formation. He then counters that by putting his Bestigor on the far right of that weaker flank of that unit. I then deploy my halberds in a way I've been wanting to try them out. They have this 2-inch rule, 2-inch reach rule. I don't really get a chance to take advantage of it, but I figure if I'm going to be defensive or I want a support unit for my Chaos Warriors, I can have the halberds sit right behind the Chaos Warriors, giving this whole section of the battlefield a little bit more offensive / defensive oomph. He then sets up Malagor in the center of his deployment zone behind this wall. I set up my War Shrine to support this now really defensive clot in the middle of my deployment zone. He puts his other unit of Bestigor on the left side of his gore to support them. My Blood Reavers go on the far right flank. Then his Tzeentch chariot supports the weaker side of those Chaos Warriors in the center. I then set up my Blood Slaughter Priests behind my Blood Reavers. His Warhounds go right across from my Blood Reavers. Then I finally set up Kekus the Pyromancer in this big giant middle defensive area. He sets up his Minotaurs to support that weak side once again, and then I don't have any more deployment, so he sets up the Giant to again attack my center defensive clot. So here's an overview of the board as we go into Beastmen turn 1, and at this point, Kekus the Pyromancer summons up his Molten Magics to beat through the defenses of Malagor the Dark Omen 1. And he didn't summon up a lot of magic to duel Malagor. He was trying to just get the gate open, but he fails at that. But on the upside, he actually severely wounds Malagor, I guess burning his hide and causing smoke to come out of his nostrils. And I think in a fit of rage, Malagor takes out his frustrations on some of the nearby warriors and summons up a chittering horde of insects that ultimately suffocates and kills 2 of them. Next, we get a look at the board as he surges forward with the rest of his army. He doesn't have any shooting, so we're going to go straight into charging. Here are the pictures of the charges he made. He actually failed a bunch also because he rolled pretty poorly. But overall, Beastmen are extremely fast. They have a high movement rate, and then some of the other units can both run and charge, depending if they have a banner or not. So here we are with a look at the board as we get the charges over with, and now we're going to go into combat. We start off the combats with a chariot slamming in and trampling over some flamers. I then go to the right side, and I'm incredibly mismatched over here. I'm just going to try to get some attacks in before they get wiped out. And surprisingly enough, I only kill one dog, but managed to drag down an entire minotaur. That seems backwards to me. In response, he just activates his dogs, who kill off 4 of my own blood reavers. I then move to the center to start trying to kill off these Bestigor, and what I thought was going to be an easy fight ends up with me only killing one guy. And despite all the odds, I guess that's going to be a theme in this round. And speaking of that, the Minotaur is completely fluff, and then we go to Battle Shocks. And so my opponent makes all his Battle Shock tests. I, in return, fail 3 of them, which sees 3 of my Blood Reavers flee and a warrior from each of my units. Keku smells the blood and goes in for the kill against Malagor, puts a lot of effort into the duel, but only does 1 wound, and with only a token effort going into opening the gate, of course fails. But that does add 1 more wound to Malagor, which means he only has 1 wound left, so when it comes to the magic phase, Keku summons a fiery spear and throws it into the chest of Malagor, ending him, and letting the gate pretty much become his for the taking, as long as he can stay alive. The Flamer retreats from the chariot. Kekus also runs from the general direction because the chariot's over there and 2 units of gore. We then have the Slaughter Priest on the far right flank charge into the combat to help out the Blood Reavers, and he ends up killing one of the Minotaurs single-handedly. The counter assault's pretty brutal, with all of the Blood Reavers dying and the Slaughter Priest down to just 3 wounds. We move over to the center combats, and despite the fact that I have overwhelming force, I cannot kill a single Bestigor. Not 1 dies. In return, I lose a warrior, and that's where we end it as we go into Beastmen turn 2. Here's an overview of the board once again. So as we go into the roll-off to see who controls the gate, as you would expect, it's incredibly lopsided. I really win that. But don't count the Beastmen out yet. Even though I won that pretty convincingly, as you can see in these pictures, he's going into combat and everything is converging on the center. All he really needs to do is kill off the sorcerer, and he's right back into the game. But as you can see here, there's a good chance he might table me this turn with all this power going into the center. I think the only thing that doesn't make it is a unit of Bestigor. But yeah, this is what combat's going to be like. So this is a fight for survival. He's definitely looking to kill the sorcerer, but I'm just looking to stay alive. My opponent starts off the combats by choosing his giant, really wanting to see what he can do, and he does very well. He hits and wins with a lot of his attacks, but unfortunately for him, that unit of Chaos Warriors are in a great spot. I managed to put up Mystic Shield from last turn on them. In addition to that, they're in the bubble of the War Shrine, allowing them to reroll all failed armor saves, and even when they do take wounds after that, on a 6, they ignore it. And so as the giant slings his club across their shield wall, only 1 warrior dies. I roll so many saves, it was fantastic, but probably disheartening also at the same time. The rest of the combats see me pretty much out attrition my opponent, and he's not going to be able to table me this turn. Just having all these warriors together in that bubble effect is just making them pretty hard to kill, even though they're not incredibly offensive as I would like them to be. We then move over to the far right flank, where my Slaughter Priest actually survives the dogs and the Minotaur. He's even able to inflict 2 wounds on the other Minotaur, but of course he's only on 1 wound left. And then we move on to the most important combat now that we know I'm not going to get tabled, which is the Chariot versus the Sorcerer. And unfortunately for my opponent, he doesn't do a single wound. So I lucked out there. Earlier when I saw the Tuscarora Chariot slam into the horrors, I was pretty impressed with what they could do, and I was afraid that my sorcerer would have died. But he does make it, so we go into my turn, and of course, it's incredibly lopsided like that than the turn before. So at this point, I controlled the gate, and his wizard is already dead, so Chaos does win. So there you have it. We have a winner after only 2 turns. But despite the fact that it was only 2 turns, it felt like a complete game. And I really enjoyed this scenario. It's probably in my top 3 favorite scenarios now that I've played a couple games of AOS. I hope to play this again. And I recommend it to you guys to try it out. I mean, I would try the modified version. I'm not sure how the real scenario would work when you're allowed to bring in reinforcements, because the reinforcements are ill-defined. It would take a lot of planning with your opponent, But if you just wanted a quick pickup game, just using the criteria of how you win the scenario, I think is good enough. So overall, though, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry about the lack of content recently, but of course, like every year previously, I kind of slow down around this time of year because, one, holidays, two, professionally, it's just one of the busier time of the years for me. But after the new year, I'll be back to the normal, probably weekly video if I can. But that's the plan, as always. I am moving, though, in May, so that might slow it down a little bit. So, either way, enough of that. I hope you enjoyed it. I do appreciate everybody's likes, comments, and subscriptions. I do encourage you to make comments below. I hope you guys are having a great holiday season. Merry Christmas to everyone. And I will hopefully see you later this week, maybe next. Bye.